The student makes their case to a particular person who's in charge of the judicial hearings.
You go in front of a few students and a few professors. I'm actually on this board, so I've seen a lot of them.
You have witnesses called for both sides, and there's a formal hearing.
You're not allowed to have a lawyer. Sometimes it's very difficult to have your due process rights there, so it's really scary.
You're usually sentenced, you're usually required to undergo some sort of sensitivity training.
I was actually brought up on charges by the dean of students also, so I've seen both sides of it.
You can't speak out one way or the other, either in favor or against the speech code. The university has essentially instituted a gag rule.
We had a huge problem with the counterweight, our paper. We published an issue about the speech code.
There was, a big to-do over the counterweight, and so our dean of students held a meeting. He invited sort of the preeminent liberal groups, or at least that are easily identifiable as liberal.
There was a secret meeting at which I was threatened. Denise was threatened.
We had the deans yelling at us, the different university administrators just yelling at us in a group of angry students.
What kind of threats did you hear from the other students at this meeting?
Stuff along the lines of, I really want to punch you right now.
Some of them have just been really mean to me because of my beliefs, and I can handle them being mean to me, but to have a university employee just attacking me on a personal level.
And the administrator who threatened you, is this person still with the university?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe it's not really a threat. What she said to me was, I was lucky that the other students there were such good kids, or else I could have gotten hurt.
I think that's wildly inappropriate of an administrator to do that.
After about 45 minutes, this guy Ferraro turned to me. I was the editor of the counterweight at that time, and he said, knowing how upset people are, would you run these articles again, these articles saying that the speech code is bad? And I said, yeah, I would.
Dean Ferraro was incensed.
He told us to leave. We kind of did one of those, like, how can you do this? And it's not like we were freezing, we were just flabbergasted. He threatened to call the cops.
Clearly revealed that he wasn't impartial.
Right after that, I had to go through this trial, so I find it a little hard to believe that there's not some relationship there. It went on for months. I was resoundingly acquitted. Fire wrote a letter to support me. All kinds of students testified that it was nonsense.
There have been a few incidents where kind of bad things have happened, and they've ignored it.
Somebody chalked outside the student union, die BUCC, die Bucknell Conservatives Club. Of course, nothing happened.
One of our members, Allison Kasich, she was the secretary at the time. She had some kind of conservative sign on her door.
A person wrote Nazi party on it, maybe a swastika too.
Nothing ever came of it.
There have been a lot of swastikas drawn around about us.
If they were to decide a conservative was harassed, I think a lot of people on campus would be shocked by that.
A student drove back from the mall, which is 20 minutes south of here, a student of Asian descent, and felt like he or she was being tailed.
And the next day, there was an all-campus email saying, oh no, watch out for this.
I hope the student wasn't being tailed, and I hope especially that the student wasn't being tailed because of their race, but there was no evidence, but it didn't need evidence.
There wasn't any all-campus email saying, watch out for people drawing swastikas on your door.
Whatever they're going to do, they ought to do it equitably. If they're going to panic every time somebody feels offended or threatened or whatever, why is it that it has to be done on such a partisan, selective basis?
Well, I can't answer that question, Charles. But on another road trip, I discovered that Bucknell isn't the only place that selectively enforces speech codes. At the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, you'd better be careful when choosing your Halloween costume.
Everybody was dressed up in Halloween costumes. It was right before Halloween.
Members of fraternity that were going to a party, and they dressed up like the Jackson 5.
5 members from Jackson, Tennessee, and they decided to dress up as the Jackson 5 because that's how they were known.
They were going to dress up as somebody for Halloween, so that's who they chose.
They were dressed as the Jackson 5, but they as part of their costumes, they were in blackface.
Right. I don't think they were doing anything to, degrade black people.
It happened over a weekend, and then on the following Monday, they were reprimanded.
And the university ended up suspending the entire fraternity.
The party didn't even take place on campus.
It was dealt with pretty harshly.
If 3 black guys had chosen to paint their faces white and dress up as the Bee Gees, whether everybody would have gotten offended. I doubt it.
The man does have a point.
White chicks.
You know them girls ain't gonna be there.
Oh, they'll be there. They'll have to do the unthinkable.
Yo, what's up, money? You got a problem?
Okay, so maybe the people running UT have no sense of humor.
Lefty administrators are the Dean Wormers of the 21st century. In movies like Animal House, it was some sort of pretentious establishment twit, and now it's a different sort of pretentious establishment twit.
The Dean Wormers over at UT were running a pretty tight ship. After coordinating with the fraternity's national organization, the chapter was kicked off campus. Punishing an entire fraternity because a few of its members made a poor choice in Halloween costumes? That's a harsh penalty. So you can imagine what happened when this student was the target of emails calling him a raghead terrorist and suggested that he be shot in the face.
Nothing has been done about that.
Nothing has been done.
Absolutely nothing.
At the University of Tennessee, wearing the wrong Halloween costume can result in a punishment, but a student who sends an email talking about shooting people in the face gets off scot-free? Why is that?
I mean, he is an outspoken conservative, you know, writing for our paper.
I often write in defense of the United States in the face of much of its criticism that it gets disproportionately more on campus than I think in the rest of our culture.
Sigmani, they're not sympathetic to just because he has a point of view which they don't agree with.
I believe that the reason no action was taken was because Sigmani is an outspoken conservative.
That's the only thing I could make of it.
You know, it seems that the administration's policy is hate speech is wrong against certain people.
The trouble began with an editorial Soukmani wrote for the school paper. In it, he was critical of the Issues Committee, the arm of the university responsible for bringing speakers to campus.
They are almost always far-left ideologues.
Parents were probably unaware that they're paying for people to come to the school and tell their kids that the United States is the equivalent of the Nazi Party, literally.
They get an absolutely insane amount of money to bring people here.
Approximately $100,000.
They get all their money from student activities fees. So they're 100% funded by students.
The campus as a whole has no say in who gets on the Issues Committee.
Not at all.
Existing members vote on who to let in. So if the Issues Committee leans left now, chances are in 10 years it'll still lean left.
People who graduated from the University of Tennessee in 1983, 1985, they had the same complaints when they were students.
People apply to the committee and then they interview them and they select who gets on it.
I personally have never interviewed with them. This is just what one of my friends had told me, but they asked him if he could kill any president, what president would he kill and how.
Really?
Yeah.
Soukmani had written an article in the Beacon about the bias of the Issues Committee in terms of who they bring to campus to speak and everything else.
He's kind of a pioneer in really going after the Issues Committee and staying after them.
It really blindsided them. I don't think they ever expected anybody to question them.
That probably didn't make him very popular at the administration.
Popularity. What is it made of? How does a person get to be popular with lots of people and have a few close friends, too? Let's watch and see what makes people like one person and not another.
Say, Reggie, did you know that Archie is a conservative? That's not too keen, Jughead. Doesn't he listen to what the adults say here in school? Gee, I guess not, Reggie. Otherwise he'd know that only stupid people are conservative. He's a real square. Yeah, a real square. If he knew it was good for him, he'd wise up and believe what they told him to believe. Say, that'd be swell. Then he'd be popular.
A friend of Soukmani's, who was a conservative, was the token conservative on the Issues Committee for a while. Couldn't get anything done, couldn't get a word in edgewise, and got frustrated and resigned. But they left him on the email list.
Unfortunately for them, they left me on the email list. I was receiving all of the emails that started circulating immediately after Soukmani's article ran.
A lot of profanity and just attacking Soukmani and his religion.
The discourse between the members deteriorated pretty quickly.
This kid, I guess, made a comment over email. He wrote a comment to the rest of the group.
He said, the next time you see one of these ragheads, shoot him right in the fucking face. It really seemed to me that they were wanting to go after Soleimani.
I can only imagine what Soleimani goes through. He wears a turban every day. He has a long beard.